thought this line was only for emergencies. Go ahead.
It's time.
Are you sure?
Never been more sure in my life.
He's not gonna like this. Let's do this. Hello, and welcome back. Today, we're here to discuss the identity of the Dark Aether Storyline's most mysterious character, an important agent in pulling the strings of the story from the beginning, and someone likely about to make their first major move, the director. But before we can make any accusations, the first step will be gathering as much information on this enigmatic entity as possible. As we can see here from the Requiem formation memo, the director originally rose to the ranks of Associate Deputy Director of the CIA, Directorate of Science and Technology. When the US initially pushed to create the Office of Requiem, due to the dimensional breaches and Omega's activities, he was chosen as the director. However, as he was so instrumental in the organization and formation of Requiem, he essentially tapped himself for the role. The director personally chose 3 of the 4 department heads, with Carver, and likely the mole, personally requesting his own role instead. His name is redacted in every document where it's mentioned, to the point where Carver himself does not know the name. And Carver, in this cipher, also comments on overhearing him speak Russian. The director also began to divert funds away from the militaristic aspects of Requiem and into the scientific R&D aspects to Strauss and Gray. Intel that Carver found on the wand that finds its way into Kravchenko's hands was in the director's inbox on the desk in his office. This means that the director had personally requested this report on whether or not the entity above everything in the Dark Aether existed, as you can hear in this audio log.
Okay, Mac, okay. Just gotta take a breath now and shake off these jitters. Think it through. Fact. Dark Aether hostiles come in different classes, different threat levels. It's why we're calling some specials, some elites, and some apex level. Fact. We've seen them work together, attacking us with a mix of offensive capabilities. Reminds me of how we outfit platoons with a range of weapons. Riflemen, snipers, heavy gunners. The others roll their eyes when I point this out, but I know a tactical unit when I see one. And then there's what I saw today while I was waiting in the director's office. It was right there on his desk, face up in his inbox, straight from the DNI. Eyes only. You don't just leave that kind of document lying around. Was he testing me? Anyhow, the memo confirms what I've been trying to warn them about. They know there's a top dog on the other side, some kind of entity in charge of the rest. So why aren't we talking about that? Why aren't we making plans to take that damn thing out? Gonna have to play this cool. Act like I didn't see nothing. But I sure as hell did.
Interestingly enough, everyone else in Requiem seems to doubt Carver's belief in the wand, potentially meaning the director doesn't wish for this information to be public just yet.
Despite the clear, overwhelming threat presented by the wand, very few individuals across the globe, let alone in Requiem, are even conscious of its existence, and that's all due to the actions of one individual, the director of Requiem. Now, for him to deliberately conceal this information would assumedly mark him as the ultimate ally of the One. However, in reality, the truth of the matter is seemingly the exact opposite. With the director being conscious of the threat but simultaneously shielding Requiem from proof of its existence, it seems incredibly bizarre that he would leave the single greatest source of information on this entity lying a full view of anyone who entered his office, allowing Major Carver and subsequently the Mole to gain access to this information, from there it being passed on to the Omega Group. A man such as the director would not make this mistake. The information that found itself on the director's desk was a report from the Directorate of National Intelligence, not Requiem. It cannot be understated how important this tiny piece of information is. For this to have been a report created external to Requiem, it means that the DNI would not have access to this information on the Dark Aether. Instead, the director himself would have had to provide all the details, with the DNI merely analysing them. This would mean that in order for them to find the One, they must have been asked to do just that. Find a colossal entity in charge of all others. Which begs the question, how could the director have been so certain of its existence? Despite all the many layers of enigma that plague the director's character such as this, we can say that it is likely that the director intentionally leaked this information to Omega, or at least had it leaked through other channels. The true motivation for this is, as with any element of his character, obscured to us. However, the most probable cause is that through recognising the sheer power of the One, he also recognised that both Requiem and Omega are required in order to have any hope of defeating it. If Omega make the first move in the war against this entity, then maybe it will be far easier to get Requiem on side.
The director also requests that a large majority of all Aetherium in the future be directed away from Strauss and Gray to a Project Janus. Now, what is Janus? While we do not know the specifics of the project, we can make some guesses based on the name. In ancient Roman religion, Janus is the god of beginnings, gates, transitions, time, duality, doorways, passages, frames, and endings. The name in Latin means arched passage or doorway, and Janus is a fundamental and primordial god, meaning he has existed since the beginning of time and was not created. While the fundamental nature of Janus is debated, in most modern scholars' view, the god's function may be seen as being organized around a single principle, presiding over beginnings and transitions, whether abstract or concrete, sacred or profane. According to Weaver, the director also has access to anything submitted to the Requiem mainframe by senior staff.
Agent Maxis is still showing high levels of Aetherium contamination in her bloodstream. But the way it's affecting her is different than any other subject I've observed.
Meaning?
It's not just her eyes. There are things happening on a cellular level I can't quantify yet.
You keep your notes in our central database, yes? Well, that would explain the new orders. The director wants to run more specialized tests on Maxis. If you're asked to cooperate, you do as instructed. Are we clear?
Yes, sir.
And Gray? Remember, if it's on the mainframe, everyone above my pay grade can access it. If there's something you want to tell me, you tell me in person.
I promise, Weaver. I won't keep anything else from you.
I'm glad we understand each other. Dismissed.
Gray submits a report that details Sam has a higher Aetherium count than any other human alive at the time and shows no direct mutations. Before long, Sam is taken away on orders from the director for testing.
What's happening?
Garcia Anderson. Secure her.
Hey! Take your hands off me! Weaver! Call them off!
You're to undergo some additional testing. Don't make this any harder than it already is.
Why are you doing this?
I'm not. Orders from the director. It's okay, girl. I'll look after you.
Weaver! Maxis, stop!
I can't, Sam. My hands are tied.
And now we have gathered all of the relevant information, and so we must attempt to draw a conclusion. Let's go back over the important bits and what we can extrapolate from them. The director has their name redacted in every document. This likely means it is a name that we would recognize. The director also has knowledge of the Dark Aether at a higher scale than seemingly any other character early in the story. Equal, if not greater than Zykov's knowledge, who, reminder, has spent an extensive amount of time there, whereas the director has seemingly never been. Requiem do not know where their usage of the term Dark Aether originated. And it is the same term that was used pre-Tag Der Toten. The director has knowledge of Samantha's exposure to the Dark Aether being unique, and seemingly her connection to Gregory Weaver, which was likely a large influence in him being chosen for Requiem. Speaking of choosing the Requiem members, he handpicked each of the members for reasons known only to him, except Carver, some of which have now been revealed to us and others we can extrapolate upon. He chose Dr. Strauss specifically for his history with Project Endstation, knowing that that would be the first major step in the plan. He chose Weaver for his history with both Samantha and likely the boy that had the rabbit, Mr. Peaks. We know that Weaver seemingly burnt that boy alive in a house, and that's where the rabbit comes from. And so he has some kind of longer history with the Dark Aether than we know right now. Gray was an expert in unnatural sciences, which in the larger community would have her be known mostly as a quack scientist, except here in the fields of Dark Aether research. We know stuff like this had already existed in this world, from early Omega Group research into psychic phenomena. The director has said that Gray's perspective would be key for Requiem. Gray was also instrumental in Samantha's role in the destruction of the Operation Inversion missiles. While this benefited the One, it seems, we don't really know if the director chose Gray because he knew that would happen, or it was an unforeseen side effect. And Carver, while he asked for the role himself in Requiem, it's likely the director allowed it so that he could siphon information through Carver to Omega Group, as he uses Carver to send Kravchenko intel on the One, and that makes Omega Group's main goal stopping them, which is probably the only reason they're prepped enough to handle the stuff that's going to go on in Mauer Der Toten. So during Operation Threshold, the director diverts budget away from the field ops and gives it to Gray and Strauss. And then this seems to suggest that to him, Requiem is a means to an end. And when he soon takes that Aetherium from Gray and Strauss too, we find out that end. Project Janus. I believe Janus is a gateway or a passage to oversee the transition of the old worlds into the singular new one and protect its beginnings. And Samantha's blossoming psychic abilities we've seen, along with more Aetherium than has ever been used before, are instrumental in this project. That's why she's been taken for testing. Now, in my opinion, there's only one person left unaccounted for in this storyline, whose name we would recognize and also fits the profile we have built to the letter. And that person would be Eddie.